Hello, sir.
Hello, Ankit.
Sir, Telangana Chief Minister Mr. Revanth Reddy has laid bare the status of educational outcomes in the state and has called for debate in the society involving all stakeholders. What is your first response to that?
Long years ago, I'm borrowing a phrase by a great friend of mine who is no more, L.C. Jain, Lakshmi Chand Jain, a great Gandhian, Planning Commission member, ambassador to South Africa. This was almost 35 years, 30 plus years ago. At the National Academy of Missouri, we were analyzing the state of India. So I was making the lead presentation about the strengths and weaknesses, the successes and failures. He said, Dr. Jayaprakash gave a rich harvest to the poor state of India today. So I think Mr. Revanth Reddy gave a rich harvest to the poor state of education, particularly at school level in Telangana, and in many ways in the whole country. And to the extent that he acknowledged the problem, if you recognize the problem, half the solution is there. If you pretend the problem does not exist, there's no solution possible.
Right.
So the appalling outcomes are the central challenge of education in India. Everything else is peripheral. Everything else is irrelevant. Because enrollment in schools is near 100%. Governments are spending phenomenal amounts of money. The teacher-student ratio is exceptionally good. You can't ask for more. The real issue is, despite all this, outcomes are appallingly bad.
Right.
So the recognition, I'm very pleased because this probably is the first time that a head of government at a state or national level has in a very honest and straightforward manner acknowledged the complete and colossal failure of school education in the country and expressed the desire or yearning to improve it. I think it's a good starting point. Only one caveat I would like to add. It's not merely limited to Telangana. All states with minor variations are in the same boat. School education in general has collapsed in the country. ASSER surveys, then government's own national achievement surveys, then global survey like PISA, the only time we participated. Time and again we can see that. And common sense tells us, any employer, any person who has some experience in education, you see what is happening, whether it's language and comprehension and communication, or mathematical concepts and ability to apply them for problem solving, or application of logic and deriving scientific conclusions. These are the critical minimal requirements for economic activity in modern era. Now, unless every kid is enabled to do that and enabled to fulfill her true potential, how will they find meaningful jobs in today's world? How will they be productive? Without the bulk of the people being productive and participative, how can you eradicate poverty and how can you create a political consensus for economic growth? If growth only touches a small number of people, the 10% of the people, if 90% people are denied the opportunity to participate in growth because of circumstances of birth, because their parents are semi-literate or illiterate, because they're rural, even urban is not that much different, because they're poor, if 90%, 80% are denied the opportunity, how will there be political consensus for growth? You see, all over the country, we're all complaining that come election time, everybody is busy about short-term welfare at the cost of the long-term growth. Why? Because people are dissatisfied. Why? Because they are not partners in growth. Telangana state election is a classic example. In the assembly election held about a little over a year ago, in 24 assembly segments in and around Hyderabad city, Congress lost every single segment.
Yes.
Because Congress' main electoral plank is more welfare. They did not focus at all on infrastructure and economic growth. In Hyderabad city and surrounding areas, whichever by the party in power, there was a general perception that growth has happened and growth has touched a majority of people. So even the poor could see growth is likely to help them. Therefore, there was a support for growth. Whereas the rest of the constituencies, largely rural, Congress swept. Because welfare and welfare alone, nothing else mattered. So you can see clearly, if you want India to grow, if you want poverty to go, and if you want the poor to have an opportunity, and if you want caste discrimination to disappear, and if you want the children's potential, every child's potential to be fulfilled, for all these, there's only one answer: quality school education. Quality school education. Quality school education. Genuine outcomes. Not rote learning, not mass copying. So I'm glad that a chief minister made an issue of that, and I hope it will lead to concrete action, because we can easily improve it. And I hope the rest of the states and the country will focus not on petty politics and partisanship, but our children's future and educational outcomes.
So speaking of rest of the states, the chief minister used to make his case. He used the National Achievement Survey, and he said that among all the parameters, Telangana is ranking somewhere on the bottom 5. Now, what is Telangana particularly doing wrong? Why are the other states performing better than Telangana?
No, to be fair, Telangana is bad. Every other state too is largely bad. There is a marginal variation. Because he belongs to Telangana state, he is heading Telangana state, naturally he has to focus on his state.
Right.
That introspection is necessary. But across the country, time and again, pass percentage in many states, say 7th grade, 10th grade, wherever board examinations are held, is 95%, 96%. Minor variations may be there, but that's above 90s. National Achievement Survey in those states, in most of the cases, whether it's language or mathematics or science, the proficiency for the grade appropriate level, supposing you finish 10th class. At 10th class level, how much are the kids supposed to learn? That is what National Achievement Survey tests. Typically 10 or 15%. 96% pass, proficiency is at 10-15%. So what's happening to balance 70-80%? We are hoodwinking ourselves. There's a massive racket going on in the country. Mass copying and rote learning. You cannot in 21st century build an economy, give people an opportunity or create jobs through mass copying and rote learning. There must be productivity. Productivity in a modern economy is a function of your brains being able to function. That means ability to communicate, ability to use minimal mathematical knowledge for real problem solving, understanding the concepts, ability to draw logical conclusions. If these three are missing, then you are no longer a productive member of a modern economy. So it is not merely Telangana. Within that very bad group of every state is in that unfortunate league, in that Telangana is doing even a little worse. Right. And it's not that private schools are better. While high-end private schools where the parents are well educated, you're paying a lot of money, they have other means of learning how to make up for their deficiencies. Probably they are able to just about hold their own. 80% of the kids of India are not fulfilling their potential. Government or private, urban or rural. So it's not specific to one state or one grade. It is an all-round educational failure. Public sector and private sector. Normally, I'm a great champion of private sector, as many people are. Private sector ordinarily should be a solution. When the government sets the standard, private sector also responds to that. What does private sector want? They want pass percentage. You're getting pass percentage. They want ranks. They want marks. You're getting marks and ranks, not education. So private or government, we respond to incentives. Parents respond to incentives. When the incentive is wrongly designed, by mass copying or rote learning, you can get top grades and top ranks. That's what our system is achieving, fantastic ranks. But they stand nowhere in global competition. The only time India participated in a PISA survey, a global survey, Program for International Students Assessment, we were ranked second from the bottom. Luckily, a country called Kyrgyzstan was in that list. They got the bottom position and we got second from bottom. And that is after surveying in 2 states which we believed are the best in India. Tamil Nadu and Himachal Pradesh. Not the worst. So let's be honest, I'm very proud of our country. But pride does not mean that you conceal the reality. Pride means that you overcome the ugly reality, create conditions to allow every child to fulfill her potential, improve the educational outcomes. That is true pride. There are many areas we are doing very well. There are some areas we are doing terribly badly. Let's acknowledge it, understand why it is happening, then set it right.
So conceding that the school education is poor in our state, in Telangana, you see at the higher education level, Telangana students and students from the Telugu community performing very well at IITs, NITs, NEET and IAS and everything. So where is this discord coming?
There are 2 fallacies. The first fallacy is that if you have a Sacha Nadella in in America, heading one of the great global giants, Microsoft. You have Sundar Pichai heading another great global giant, Google. Everything is okay with education. Nobody said that the best in India are not able to match the best in the world. Similarly, in a very highly competitive environment, Andhra Pradesh, along with I think Rajasthan, is another state which is very much in the same league. Coaching institutions, a whole industry is created. So even from 5th grade, 6th grade, for upper middle class and middle class kids, teachers, kids, others, they take them through that ringer. And children are put through a lot of pressure. And they're learning something, but they're also going through a lot of pressure. Therefore, in competitive examinations, these kids who are going to these specialized schools, though it's not all-round development of the personality, they do well. But that does not mean that the system is doing well. Because the competition is limited only to the top 10% or 20%.
The bulk is still suffering.
The 80% simply are nowhere there. Nowhere there. I'm not exaggerating. You go to any school. I went to a village school. I went to Telugu medium school, Panchayat Samiti, Zilla Parishad, they ran those schools. And I left that village school way back in 1969. That is 56 years now, 56 years ago. Despite the primitive conditions, inadequate resources, low teacher wages, poor infrastructure, most of us got decent education. Today, when I go back to the same school, the wages of teachers have gone up, teacher-student ratio is higher, buildings are there, toilets are there, compound walls are there, tens of thousands of crores are spent in every state on education. There's almost no kid in that school who has a chance. No kid has a future. God or nature gave them all talent. Talent is not given to only one family or one individual. Nature spreads talent across the board. But the talent to be harnessed requires good education. We don't have good education.
So why did that happen? Because even the Chief Minister said that the state is spending about 1,09,000 rupees, 8,000 rupees per child.
Per child, absolutely. Absolutely. Andhra Pradesh is spending 1,20,000 rupees. Maharashtra and Bombay city probably are even higher. Teacher-student ratio in many states is 16 kids to one teacher. Or in some cases, 14 kids to one teacher. Chief Minister pointed out that in one school, there were no kids, but there were 9 teachers.
Yes.
So, it's not a dearth of teachers. It's not their salaries. Teachers are paid very well now in many states. So, the standard approach, build more buildings, have more teachers, give more salaries, all this I'm not opposing. All these are necessary. But none of them have yielded dividends. The outcomes are declining. There is a survey called ASAR. The first ASAR survey the report was released in 2005. Along with Dr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia, I released it in Delhi, the Constitution House. A non-profit organization called Pratham conducted that survey.
Yes.
It made appalling reading. The findings were very revealing. That in 8th grade, about 30-40% kids in 8th grade are not able to read, not understand, read a 2nd grade level passage. We are not even looking at comprehension. We are looking at can you read, even if you don't understand. In 8th grade, a 2-digit subtraction, one number from another number, subtraction, 40%, 45% were not able to do in 8th grade. Not even knowing when to subtract and why to subtract. I'm not asking for conceptual answer, even the basic mechanical operation. In 8th grade, nearly 60% could not do a division, a 3-digit number by a single digit. Not when to divide, why to divide. Concept in a way it's not checked. And ASAR has been conducting surveys year after year. They make depressing reading year after year. When they went to study a little more deeply, what are the life skills? 50% could not read time. Only 50% could tell you the hour and the minute. About 50% could not say how many hours you slept. If you slept at 9 o'clock in the night, woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, how many hours have you slept? At the age of 18, I'm talking about. At the age of 18, 50% could not tell you how many hours you slept. There is a crisis of our own making, a crisis that can be easily overcome. India cannot achieve economic growth without minimal skills, without minimal conceptual understanding. We are pretending. Ask any employer how tough it is to find anybody with quality, even after a graduation, even after a degree. If school education is this bad, foundations are weak, higher education is even worse. You have a mechanical engineer. If the scooter or the car is in trouble, the parents say, look, you're a mechanical engineer, will you look at it? See under the hood, they will take you to an illiterate mechanic. You get employment when you're productive. You're productive when you can produce goods and services that are needed by others. Then they will reward you with money and they will be rewarded with the services or goods produced. If you have no capacity to produce anything of value to those around you, how can society take the burden of taking care of you? Economic activity is generated by the brain. It's generated by the skills. Without minimal skills, how can you be productive? So we are in a deep crisis. We must acknowledge that. So this is the first thing, fallacy. There is a second fallacy. And that fallacy is, somehow we are thinking that among the rest of the people, 80% people, even if they're not doing well academically, they somehow have the skills to do something or the other. It's not true. The best in India are a match for the best in the world, oftentimes. But the average in India is so abysmally poor that they cannot even be considered fit enough to be in 90% cases in the rest of the world. Our best, actually, globally competitive kids from India probably are 1%. 1%. Our top 1% probably are competing globally. About 15-20%, they're below par, but they can catch up with some effort. 80% are nowhere. Now, if you don't understand that, and if you think that somehow we can, by showing a few IITs and IIMs and some other things will improve, and even there, the other day I have seen the numbers in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Earlier, even I was under the impression that at least in competitive examinations, these chaps are doing well in the nationwide competitive tests. But recently, NEET examination, somebody brought to my attention, if you take the top 5,000 ranks in the country, how many are going to kids of Andhra Pradesh, proportionate to the population or not? We're doing abysmally poorly. Abysmally poorly. Because initially that was true. Even if the state was doing very badly, at least some of the kids who are getting the advantage of training in some of these coaching institutions, they were benefiting. At least that was the perception. But now, because the foundations are so weak, even that is not helping. We're going through the motions. There's a whole industry of coaching without actually enhancing the knowledge level or the ability to apply the knowledge. So even there we are faltering. Actually, some states are doing a little better, not much better, a little better. Even the northern states, you can see the number of ranks in the top, out of the top 5,000. How many NEET ranks are there in some of the northern states? They're actually doing a little better. So the illusion that the southern states are Telangana or Telugu people, they get all the MBBS or BTech courses all over the country, IIT or IIMs, therefore they're doing well. It's no longer true. Even that is not true. If the foundations are weak, the impact is felt everywhere.
So 1,10,000 rupees per child per year. Still, year after year, like you mentioned, ASAR survey reports suggest that the outcomes are appallingly bad. If money is not the answer, then what is the answer?
Money is not the answer. We are spending a lot. Teacher-student ratio is not the answer, because our ratios are among the best in the country and the world. Parental sacrifice or passion is not the answer, because parents in India, they live and die for their children. If there is one thing that unites all of India, all households, Hindu, Muslim, upper caste, lower caste, urban, rural, it is our love for our children and our willingness to sacrifice for the children to any extent. You can't blame the society because they're spending so much money. So what is wrong?
So what about students? Are students not wanting to
Students are bright.
Okay.
See, every generation, students are innately bright and they're very hardworking. And they're going through so much pressure. Even LKG, UKG kids, oftentimes you see on the roadside when they're going to catch the school bus, the whole bundle of books they carry. Oftentimes because the parental ambition, they go to school at 7 o'clock and until night 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock without even sports or games or something, they're simply going through that grind. So students also can't be faulted. How can you fault the students? In the name of education, we are not imparting education at all. Education is about the three things I mentioned, particularly at school level. Comprehension and communication, any language. Understand what the other people are saying or are writing. And communicate orally or in writing effectively what you have in mind. That is language. Language is not mastering or reciting some slokas or some poems or something. The second is mathematics. Understand the concept. Why you do what, in what context you do why. And then apply that conceptual understanding for problem solving. You must be able to actually understand how to use that knowledge to deal with the complex challenges of the world. Science is not S equal to UT plus half AT square. Science is about looking at the facts, observing or given facts, and then applying logic and deriving sensible conclusions. Science is always based on first principles. You build one upon the other, based on logic. If you don't have logic, no matter how many formula you mug up, you are irrelevant. So, how do you acquire these things when the system demands these skills? Is the system demanding those skills? No. The system is demanding rote learning and mass copying. The system is not demanding understanding, application of knowledge, or thinking, or creative learning. So we are responding to the system's incentives. Everybody wants 99% marks. Everybody talks about cut-off mark, university admission. Cut-off mark is a very common expression in India. You want ranks, you want percentage, you want grades. That you are getting, you are generating that perfectly. But for what purpose? The grades and ranks or your marks should be a reflection of your actual skill. When they are not a reflection, they have no meaning at all. Therefore, if your grades and ranks and marks, they reflect the actual skills, you test in that manner, the same people, the same stakeholders, the kids, the parents, the teachers, the managements, the administrators, they will all respond differently. They'll behave differently because they want success. Right now, success means by rote learning and mass copying, I can get top marks. That is success. If success is not by rote learning and mass copying, but understanding and applying the knowledge, then we'll get there. Further, there are 100 inputs required, but no matter how many inputs you give, unless the goal is really fixed properly, unless we know what is the outcome you are seeking in education, we will never improve. Because last 20-25 years is a saga of consistent effort to improve. More money, more teachers, more infrastructure, more this, more that, more everything. The only thing less is no education. Less education. Less outcomes. So the one thing missing is how do you re-incentivize? Create the right kind of incentive. Have proper testing without stress, without rote learning, focusing on conceptual understanding and communication skills and application of knowledge. Have systematic testing and design everything around that. Once you do that, the same system, the same people, because our demand side is supremely strong. We are lucky as a country. Among poor countries, India must be one of the best in terms of the parental desire to see children getting educated. Demand side is very, very strong.
Shall we then revamp our syllabus, sir?
No. I have seen the textbooks, definitely in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh and some other states. So people keep talking about change syllabus, restructure, nothing. 95% is perfectly all right. Maybe here and there I would like to add a few things. Not necessarily for examination purposes, but a bit of financial literacy. Maybe I would like them to have some understanding. And some other areas we can improve. But otherwise, on the whole, there's nothing wrong with the syllabus. It's a lie. We are barking at the wrong tree. Better textbooks, better syllabus, that's not the problem. NCERT is doing a great job. Many SCERTs are doing a great job. You can always have some improvement. I'm not saying everything is perfect. Nothing in life is perfect. But it's pretty good. That's not the real challenge. Real challenge is education is always based on foundations, the next step, the next step, next step. Step ladder approach. If foundations are weak here, you keep on adding to the number of years, but you are fundamentally weak. You have no ability at all. So you have to strengthen the foundations and then give the incentive for improving the learning, genuine learning, by rewarding real ability. Real ability being communication and comprehension, conceptual understanding and application of knowledge for problem solving, logic to arrive at reasonable conclusions. These are the three fundamental goals required in school education. This is what we seek. Once the kid understands that, once your tests designed precisely for that, then the whole attitude will change, because we all want success. Remember, we all want success. Success is defined badly now, they are achieving the bad success. You define it well, they achieve a good success tomorrow.
So, sir, then how would you design a test or an examination?
You don't have to go far.
Okay.
50, 60 years ago, we had tests. In that remote village, when printing was an extraordinary technology, trust me, printing was extraordinary technology in those days. A typewriter was unheard of in a village. Annually, we used to have 6 times question papers coming from the district headquarters, printed papers, reasonably well designed. And we had to answer some short, some longish answers, some merely one-word answers or objective type. They were assessed. And if they found that some deficiencies in us, the teachers explained after evaluating them, they gave the answer sheets to us. They said, look at it, this is where you went wrong. This is why you went wrong. 6 times in a year. And if a kid is not catching up adequately, there used to be special classes. I'm talking of government schools in villages where there was no electricity. There was no running water. In many cases, there were no toilets. But we had education. And if even then the child is not able to catch up, there's no point meaninglessly promoting to the next grade, because they will fall behind further. So in a rare case, there were detentions. If it happened 60 years ago, what's the problem in doing it today? You have so much of technology, so many testing methods now. PISA is an outstanding test, global test. The National Achievement Survey itself is showing up how poor our educational outcomes are. So National Achievement Survey, the people who design that can design the test. Our own SCRT and CRT. But not based on rote learning and mass copying. It must be based on understanding and skills. That's all the requirement. So designing is not a problem. In fact, FDR is working with some organizations, non-profit organizations, to design a very high quality testing module. Many others are doing that. So it's not a difficult thing at all. The whole world is doing. PISA test is there. You know, in PISA test, consistently which countries rank tops? We talk about Finland, etc. They're everywhere rich countries, they're doing everywhere. But China, both Hong Kong, China and Shanghai, China. Singapore, where are they doing well? You go to China, every kid, you see, you know their ability, their skills. You ask them any question, they give very precise and accurate answer. About population, distance, something else. You can actually see. You don't have to go far. Even a casual interaction with ordinary citizens, Chinese citizens, who did not even go to colleges or universities, you know that here are skilled people. You can easily achieve that. But you must aim to achieve that, no? You achieve that when there is an aim. When the aim is not there, you go helter-skelter. Our problem is how to create that aim, that goal, that objective, that incentive, that is testing, sensible testing.
So, sir, are you suggesting that the incentive for a student to rote learn or, incentive to mass copy is because of the testing system?
Absolutely. If mass copying is rewarded, if rote learning is rewarded, that's what we do. You know, in one state, I think it was UP an year or two ago, the government decided they'll curb copying in examinations. Now, any sensible person will say it's a good goal. A national channel brought the education minister on TV and said, how can you stop copying? How will the poor kids pass if you stop copying? He said, no, Janab, I don't want to stop poor kids from passing, but no, we want to improve education. You have to justify why you want to improve education. If this is our level of public discourse, if all that matters is how many people passed, whether they know anything or not, how much they copied is irrelevant. Not what they know, not what skills they acquired, how many people passed, what marks they got. If that is your understanding of success, that's what they're generating, their success.
So the Chief Minister raised this issue in the Legislative Council because there is also a teachers and graduate representation, and he called them a very influential community. What is your request or what is your suggestion to the teachers and graduate representatives or the community?
See, even at my age, when I think of my teachers, I'm filled with reverence. We all flourished because our teachers were extraordinary. They were paid peanuts in those days. 100 rupees salary. You won't believe it. That a 100 rupee per month salary was possible. That's what we have seen in our childhood. 100, 150 rupees was great salary for them. And when the kid was doing a little better than others, they encouraged it in rural communities. They said, do Ren and Martin grammar, do Hall and Knight, I think trigonometry, or something else. Things we never knew existed. They exposed us to those things. In remote villages, 60 years ago, they inspired us. They encouraged us. That's how the potential of most of the kids was fulfilled. So a teacher, an indispensable element of education. Without a teacher, there cannot be quality education. But a teacher must act as a teacher. We have created in our country a climate where most bureaucracy has become babugiri, control, domination, personal gain, not public good. My salary, my increments, my privilege, my postings, my transfers, as I please, but not promotion of public good as the services I am supposed to be rendering. Now, teachers are much better, but unfortunately, they also are falling victims to this climate. Because after all, if you are rewarding people irrespective of performance, why should I not be also a part of that structure? So there are outstanding teachers even today. They're really trying to improve the quality of education. But unless you give an encouraging environment, and unless you reward them, you don't have to reward in terms of money or anything, at least a pat on the back when they're really struggling hard to improve the quality of education outcomes. If we don't create a climate where that's possible. If there is no monitoring, when we were kids, even in those days, there's regular inspections from the DEO's office, from the Jilla Parishad Education office. Regular inspection does not mean to bully. Actually, it was a celebratory atmosphere. We all used to have, this, whatever you call the Japanese art, with the paper, we make flowers and all that.
Yes, yes.
Okay, which festive celebration used to be there, decoration used to be there. And the whole school was full of excitement when the inspectors came. And they used to go to each class, subject-wise. And when the teacher were doing well, they used to take note of it. They used to, pat them on the back. When there were deficiencies, they tried to understand what it was. They tried to set it right. So it was a very celebratory environment. Today, with all these teachers, tell me in which state are there regular academic inspections of schools? The highest expenditure in any state's budget today is education. Almost all of it goes towards salaries and pensions, etc. Now, when that is the most important expenditure, and the most important function is to educate our children, should we not monitor it well? Is it so difficult to do it? Why are we not doing it? So you don't have to do anything extraordinary. Have proper tests, have proper monitoring, pat on the back the teachers who are doing a great job, encourage others who are somehow lagging, enhance their skills if there are some problems within the available budgets, and involve the community as much as possible so that they have stakes. If power wielding or voice and stakes come together, I need something, I have voice, then the service will improve. I don't need something, but I have voice, service will decline. Why should I bother? My voice and my power will be only for my personal benefit at the cost of the society if I don't need it. That's why, in Germany, for instance, how they used to curb pollution, water pollution? If an industry is drawing water from, say, Rhine River, all the top managers and the employees of the industry, their drinking water needs must be drawn from downstream. That means if you dump
Pollute.
polluting effluent, you face the consequences. So
Right.
when I have the need, when I have the voice, things work well. When I don't need it, I have voice, I become exploited. I need it, I have no voice, I become helpless. So bring the community. Empower local governments with accountability. All this used to happen earlier. Bring the former students. Even if my kids don't go to a school where I studied, I still have an emotional interest. I want to improve the school. This is human nature, right? Retired teachers who are reputed, first-rate non-profit organizations, civil society leaders who care for education, they're all known to everybody. Bring them in. Let them help. Even if governments move very slowly. Supposing there are some infrastructure deficits, government is not able to handle. These people will take care. Your CSR is there, 100 other things are there. Money is not a problem. I have not known a single case where if you needed 10,000 rupees to improve the school locally, money was not forthcoming. Somebody else will come forward. Only when you are involved. The National Education Policy said education is not merely the issue of the teachers and the government. It's the whole community. They're right. On that issue, they're totally right. The whole community must own it. You must create the mechanisms. When we were students, community owned it. There were examinations. There were detentions, though it was a small number. And community owned it. You know how the political pressure was felt? If you didn't have a good mathematics teacher, all the village leadership used to go and fight with the Jala Parishad. Our kids need a good math teacher. So-and-so is a good math teacher. Please get him to our school. So-and-so is a good headmaster. Please get him to our school. So-and-so is a good English teacher. Please get him to our school. And they used to worship him once they're there. So the community's pressure is completely positive because your kids are prospering or losing out.
So the politicians seem to be a little scared of the teaching community. And there's a popular proverb, who will bell the cat? But I'll ask you a different question. How will you bell the cat?
I would start off with 3 things. 1, have a simple, meaningful tests without stress, without fear, and not one test in a year, but spread over 6 or 8 tests in a year, but properly conducted. Only one caveat is make sure that there's no copying possible. 40 years ago, I would not have to say this, but today we have to specially say that. It's not enough to say test should be of good quality. It's important to say there must be no copying. I'm so sorry that I have to say this, but anybody who understands education knows this. We are pretending as if it doesn't exist. The second thing that I would then do is I create a framework in which there is regular monitoring.
Okay.
When our teacher-student ratio is for every 14 kids or 16 kids, there is a teacher in high schools. I can definitely take away 2-3% of the better teachers, train them in how to monitor the schools, and make them a cadre of regular school monitoring and inspection. Then somebody is monitoring, somebody is following what's happening. Good things as well as bad things. Accountability will be brought in. Then I will utilize my resources appropriately. The Chief Minister pointed out a school where there were 9 teachers with 0 students.
Yes.
9 teachers probably are paid by current Telangana salary structure about 8 to 9 lakhs per month. That means you're spending 1 crore rupees of hard-earned public money without a single student. Is there anything more criminal than this? It may not legally be classified as corruption or a crime, but is there anything more criminal than this in a country like India? Tell me. So, utilize your resources better. There are ways of doing that. And empower the local community. Supposing there are surplus teachers here, there are shortage here. Totality, we have plenty. But there are all kinds of distortions because of the silly way they are deployed. So let the local communities at a block level, district level, sub-district level, let them have the power to reallocate the resources to get the best outcomes. And give local communities some say, the ex-students, ex-teachers, the local government leaders. and the community leaders a say in managing the schools. Do this much. A lot more can be done, but do this much. I guarantee you, if you do it sincerely, within 3-4 years, you will see a significant change in educational outcomes. Our school education will be transformed because demand side is very strong.
So, one of the suggestions that has been discussed is that if you to increase the demand of quality education in government schools, have the government officials or people who want to contest in local governments or politicians have their kids go to government schools.
Well, as I said, if the voice and need they go together, is wonderful. So if my kid is going to that school, obviously I would be interested in
Right.
my kid doing well. And if I also have power and voice, certainly I'll make that power and voice felt in order to improve the service. As a principal, it's good. It applies even more to teachers. You are teaching. You are drawing your livelihood from teaching. If your kids go to the same school, chances are it will improve. But the problem is, we have allowed the situation to deteriorate so far that this will only have a backlash, particularly from the teachers. The local government leaders may not have a backlash because when you want to get elected, you are voiceless. You can't fight against the system. You have to go and appeal to the electorate somehow or other. So, to what extent it will yield the results is a different matter. But teachers, probably the collective might of the teachers is used against the government to build pressure. The governments will not be able to sustain. So, while ideally the stakeholder must have also the voice, the person with voice must have stakes. I completely agree as principle. Given India's conditions, there will be too much of resistance, too much of agitationism. So create conditions in which voluntarily I would be happy to send my kid to this school because this school is doing very well. Why should I spend out of pocket 50,000, 1 lakh rupees per month, per year? There are many, many poor families spending 50,000, 60,000 rupees per year. Many middle class families spending 2-3 lakhs a year. Wealthy families are spending 6 to 7 lakh rupees a year for school education. Some up to 10 lakh rupees. So why will I want to send my kids to private schools at this enormous expense if actually good education is available here? What happens in Britain? What happens in Germany, Japan, France, or even the United States? Most of the parents send their kids to the state schools because they already paid for them. They paid taxes. In fact, in the US, for instance, they decentralized power to a point where a school district board, locally elected, manages all the schools within that board, within the jurisdiction. Wherever a school district board functions well, the property values go up. There's a lot of demand for housing because then, free of cost, I can send my kids to that school. I don't have to pay exorbitant fee. Kids will do very well. And therefore, people want to move into that area. And unless you're a resident there, unless you're paying taxes there, you cannot send your kids to that school. So property values have gone up. So I agree with that as a principle. But given the current state, that may or may not work. The first thing is, do whatever it takes, at least over a few years, 3, 4, 5 years, to improve the quality of education, improve the outcomes. Once you do that, then you can push the system. It's a bit like public transport versus private transport. Everybody knows public transport is vital. But without improving public transport, creating a credible and efficient public transport system, integrated public transport system, suddenly overnight you say, you cannot use private cars, only public transport. What will happen? The idea is very sound. The idea is perfect. But chicken or egg? Do you improve the public system first to make it attractive? Or do you force people to accept a bad public system in a democracy? So it's not a question of idea, it's a question of acceptability.
So consider the plight of the middle classes. Public education is not good, it's not up to the mark, and private education is expensive. 2-3 lakh rupees for a class 1, class 2,
Absolutely.
grade 1, grade 2 student. So in that situation, what is the middle classes going to do? Like, how do you tackle that?
No, first thing is educational outcomes. Money will come later. My argument is, even when you send to private schools, most of the private schools, 70 to 80% of private schools, we are always focusing on the high-end public schools, high-end private schools.
Yes.
No, 70 to 80% of the private schools charge 25,000, 30,000 rupees.
Yes.
Budget or lower. budget private schools. And even that for a poor family is a lot of money. 25, 30, 40,000 rupees is not a small amount in India.
Absolutely not.
And yet there's no educational outcome. So first focus on government or private outcomes. Government cannot say I'm only in charge of government schools. Anyway, government schools, they messed up. Government is here to ensure that every child gets quality education. That is the government's job. Whether it's government or private is secondary. Who manages a school is secondary. But monitoring and getting outcomes is your responsibility. It's a sacred duty of the government.
Right.
So first, focus on that. Second, for the budget private schools, 25, 30,000 rupees, let us say. Cut down unnecessary expenditure in state schools. If the teacher-student ratio is already very high, for every 14, 15 kids, there is a teacher. And the student population is declining, please remember. Declining in government in two ways. One, increasingly, students are going more to private schools. Therefore, the share of government in schooling has come down. The enrollment in government schools as a share of the total school children has come down. Second, because of the demographic changes in the country, in most parts of the country, the number of children is getting fewer and fewer every year. The absolute number of children available for schooling is actually declining in most states. We are still thinking of 50 years ago problem. If last year there were 25 lakh children in a state who are eligible to go to school under 15 years or whatever, this year there are only 24.5 lakhs. Next year there are only 24 lakhs. If birth rates are declining, what's happening? Younger population is declining as a proportion. And in absolute numbers also. We are forgetting that. So our thinking each election, I will add 10,000 more teachers, 20,000 more teachers. The recruitment has become employment program, not education. Recruitment is not for education, it is for employment. Now in that climate, you make an assessment of the actual requirement of teachers and how many students there are in government schools. And if the ratios are satisfactory, then don't recruit every year as a matter of routine, because if, let's say, in 1 year 3,000 teachers retire, you don't require 3,000 teachers.
Right.
And the money you would have saved by not recruiting new teachers, the salary, you repurpose it for reimbursing the school fee subject to two conditions. One, a limit, because we can only afford that for the poor kids in budget schools. Let's say 25,000 rupees a year or 30,000 rupees a year, some reasonable limit of that kind. Two, provided outcomes are good, that means there must be a proper testing mechanism. There must be a rating mechanism of each school, government or private. And it must be objective, it must be efficient, it must be universal. All schools must be covered. Supposing the school is able to get those outcomes on a sustained basis, the fee is below a certain level, then only for those schools you reimburse the fee.
Right.
So automatically, fee structure is based on what? Poverty. If I can really afford, it's unlikely that a rich man will send a child to a 20,000 rupee fee structure. Right? If I can afford 2 lakh rupees, it's unlikely that I am poor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So start this. Then what will happen? Competition and choice. Competition among the providers and choice for the parents. Once that happens, the public also can build pressure. Look, at 30,000 rupee fee, they are improving the outcomes. If 1,08,000 rupees we are spending per child in government schools, if the outcomes are not improving, why are we paying taxes?
Yes.
Or they will start migrating to private schools. So the system will be automatically accountable. So there are many innovative things you can do.
Right. So probably my last question to you, what is your appeal to the civil society across the country, and let's say in Telangana particularly?
As the National Education Policy said, education is too big a task to be left to a government or to teachers or to administrators. All of us have stakes. In 21st century world, there is nothing more important than quality education available to everybody. Healthcare is important too, but even that is relegated to secondary level. Number one priority today, if you want to have prosperity, if you want to eliminate caste discrimination, if you want to end poverty, if you want to give everybody an opportunity in life, if you want every child to fulfill a potential. For all this, there's only one answer. That answer is quality education. Therefore, you can't simply make it partisan. Don't say this party, that party. It's not one party or other party. We together messed up. In fact, I don't blame parties. The education administrators, the teaching community, and those of us in civil society who should learn better, we came up with outrageous solutions. The word outcomes did not even find place in our policies until recently. What kind of monitoring did we do from a medical college, engineering college to a school, the length of a classroom, the breadth of a classroom? This is our level of monitoring, not outcomes. So all of us, we share the blame. So instead of blame throwing, we must make it a movement. Luckily, this is one area where there is impressive consensus from the society across all sections. If somebody is working for education, they need some resources, or time, or energy, or talent. It is never found wanting. Everybody in society wants to help in the cause of education because that is part of Indian culture for thousands of years. We worship talent. We admire scholarship throughout history. And even today, somebody gets into IIT or IIM or something, see the adulation, see the publicity. In no other country do you get publicity. If somebody gets into IAS or some other services, my God, there's so much of adulation, so much of respect, good cheer. So we value learning. And we must make it a collective enterprise. If you merely leave it to for instance, a government tries to bring accountability in education, there will be pressure in a democratic society, there will be all kinds of pressure and pushback. If the society remains silent, if you make it a fight between that government and the teaching community, or clerk somewhere else or something else, then we are being unwise. It's our money. It's our children's future. We must have an active say in that. We must never allow this kind of fundamental battles. There is always a clash between sectional interest and the collective interest. Clash between short-term individual gain and long-term collective good. These are inherent clashes in a democracy. On occasion, the governments actually fight for the general public. Not often, unfortunately, but they do on occasion. If on those occasions we remain silent as a people, we think it's their fight, it's the chief minister versus somebody's fight, not our fight, then we are the losers. Because politically they can't take the heat. So we must participate, give everything we can to that task, in addition to what the government can do. But we also must lend voice when the government does the right things. Forget the parties to that extent. Come election time, you vote for whom you want. But on this day, there are no parties. The government is ours. Whoever is the government. Whichever be the state, doesn't matter. The government is ours. The tax money is ours. Children are ours. The future is ours. Unless we bring that perspective to the table, if everything you do from the partisan lens, polarizing lens, we end up destroying our children. I have no doubt about it.
Right, sir. Thank you for sharing your perspective today, sir.